Hello and welcome to the show tonight. Tonight we're going to have Cory Hambrick, the candidate for sheriff. But while we're waiting on him to come on and get signed in, I did want to come on and thank everybody for their support and thanking you for allowing me to do this and coming on and supporting, asking your questions, being a part of the show. That's what it's all about. I'm trying to build a great community. Again, I got this cup, Crosspoint Christian Church. If you have a church you'd like to have seen on here, please let me know if they have a coffee cup and I'll have it on. Also, after the campaign season, I'm going to be talking to local businesses. So if you have a local business here in Rockdale and you like to sponsor a show, have your overlay or have your logo on my overlay as show is going on, I would love to have that. Just let me know, email me, and we'll get that on. So as we are waiting on him, I'm going to play another video, another countdown clock. Please bear with me as we get this situated. Looks like we got everybody signed in. So let's tonight welcome Cory Hambrick here with us. See if he can hear us. Hey, how you doing, sir?
Fine. How are you doing, CJ? Thank you so much for having me
All
on
right,
tonight.
I'm doing actually great today. I had a kind of a miracle and a praise report I like to share. I shared it earlier, but for those who are coming in now, I'll share it now. I've been having kidney stones for like 4 months since February, and
Wow.
I went to church this morning and I had to leave, and then I was rewatching the service about 12:30 or so when he was praying for the corporate prayer, and I heard my name, and then I think that's about the same time the kidney stone came out. I'm like, wow, look at God.
Wow. Wow, man, that's a blessing. I'm
So
glad to hear.
yeah,
First of all, can
yeah,
you
that
can you
was
hear me? Can you hear me? I want to make sure you can hear
yeah.
me.
Hear
Okay.
you great. Yeah, can you hear me good?
Okay. I can hear you good, man. Well, I want to say I
Awesome.
celebrate, man, you and your miracles and your healing, and I pray
Mhm.
that you continue the speedy recovery, the
Yeah.
process. But glad to hear, man, that God is still in the healing business.
Yes. So this show is going to be what I'm doing here is letting the citizens know what's going on in the community, bringing the
Okay.
candidates, and then after the campaign season, I'm going to start doing churches and businesses, bringing them in because what I've heard is the local businesses are not getting the support from the community. So that's what I'm trying to do
Okay.
here with my website and this show. So
Okay.
let's let everybody introduce yourself and who you are and what's going on with you.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you, and I know that you've been diligent in doing this show for quite some time now. And I see that you got some different graphics.
Yes,
I see
yes,
you bought some equipment, and I see you're
yes.
actually investing in your gift, which is basically
Mm-hmm.
bringing information from the faith side as well as the civic side, community together.
Yes,
And so I want to celebrate you on that. So yes,
yes.
obviously my name is Cory Hambrick, and I am a candidate for sheriff here in Rockdale County. My platform is simple, and you can find it on our website, which is www.hambrick, the number four, and sheriff, rockdale.com, hambrick4rockdale.com. And on that website, you'll be able to see our platform, which is simply this: safety, leadership, and community.
Mm-hmm.
Safety, servant leadership, and community. Safety, transparent leadership, and community. We have
Yes.
that emphasis, two different meanings with leadership. Leadership that is approached from a servitude standpoint, as well as leadership that is transparent. And what I
Mm-hmm.
believe is that the safety aspect of our community hinges on
Yes.
several things, not just the tactics, not just getting out patrolling the streets, not just necessarily deputies making contacts with citizens, but it also involves us having to be fiscally responsible. So, fiscal management, which is a huge
Mm-hmm.
part.
Yes.
Retention at the sheriff's office. Our retention is low. We don't retain as many
Mm-hmm.
deputies for a long period of time.
There's
And then,
still empty
last but
spots,
not
aren't there?
exactly, exactly.
I think,
And
what last time
then
I looked, it was 30. Is it
say
30
again.
now, or is it 30 spots open, or how many are?
I don't that number fluctuates so much, to be honest with you, CJ.
Oh, wow, that
I
much.
do,
Wow.
yeah, I do know that within the past 4 years, with us being able to research and to appeal to the county for information, we do know that the retention in terms of the last 4 years, approximately 250 deputies have come and gone.
Wow.
And for a sheriff's office, I know that's almost 100% of what they're outfitted for. I believe they're outfitted for like 314 or something like that. Don't quote me on that.
Mm-hmm.
That's not counting, or that is counting civilian personnel. But to have 250 people leave and come within 4 years, that's an issue. That's an issue,
Yeah.
and most people won't. Most people wouldn't know that. I search for that because obviously
Right.
I pay attention to that type of thing. But then the last thing is policy. Looking at the policies of the sheriff's office and making sure that we are enforcing those policies and that we are engaging those policies in such a way where it benefits the deputies that work there,
Mm-hmm.
it benefits the agency, but overall it benefits our community. And so I've
Mm-hmm.
been in our community for since 2007, and from a professional
Okay.
standpoint. And I've worked
Yeah.
with the City of Conyers Police Department and law enforcement.
All right.
My children go to Rockdale County schools. I worked as a substitute teacher for a little while in Rockdale County schools
Oh,
before I
wow.
was employed with the City of Conyers Police Department.
How was that?
Uh,
How was that experience?
as a substitute teacher,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Any
coming
stories
coming
there?
yeah, well, coming out of college, I was young myself, And so
Mhm.
obviously the kids, kind of thought of me more like a friend than they did as a leader. But it
Yeah.
worked for me. It worked for me. But my heart was really in law enforcement. So we were able to get in law enforcement.
Right.
And so we spent years with the City of Conyers Police Department. We matriculated up through to be a sergeant, both on the road
Mhm.
and the Criminal Investigations Division. And we were able to get a Master's of Public Administration, an earned MPA, a Master's of Public Administration there, before I went over
Okay.
to the county to become the Chief of Staff for the tenure that I spent there for 4 years as a Chief of Staff. And I was
Mm.
also able to get certified through Georgia Post
Mhm.
as far as management, my managerial certification through Georgia Post, and certification through the International Association of Chiefs of Police Leadership and Police Organization. And I afford all that to
Mm.
the opportunities that were afforded to me. And so then we began to serve the community, man, and we've been here ever since.
Yeah. And also, with all that college and all that, you also a preacher, pastor. So did you get any
Yes.
education in that way too?
Yeah.
Theology.
Well, yes, yes. Well, what we did was my ordination was through the Church of God in Christ. And, part
Okay.
of being able to become an
I'm in
elder.
the Church of God, so.
That's all right. Hey,
Hey,
it's
hey.
all Jesus. It's all
We're
Jesus,
sister
right?
churches, so yeah. Oh man.
You have to complete some training in the CH Mason Bible College in order to do that.
Okay.
And then so we completed that training in order to get our elders certification there. And then there's been some more study, and then we were able through institution to be able to be recognized for our pastoral philanthropy work in the community. So
Mm.
there's definitely educational aspects there, but
Mhm.
you can never learn too much when it comes to your
Oh
faith.
yeah.
So to me,
No.
that's always an
No.
ongoing thing. But I do pastor. I
Understood.
pastor in the community. I
Yes.
pastor the Life Church Christian Center there in Conyers, Georgia, off of Iris Drive, 2009 Iris Drive Southeast. And we've been pastoring in the community. This August would be 14 years of
Wow.
pastoring in our community. Yep.
Mm. And before we get into questions, I like to. This is what it was about: getting to know you and what you do in the community and all that good stuff. So when I was at the city council meeting with the in the city ambassador, uh, he was there trying to propose something. What was that, and why did you think it got denied? And what were you trying to do with that?
Well, one of the needs, so I'm also a business owner in our community. I invest in real estate, and I've been fortunate enough to do that. And part of my business in terms of real estate is being a blessing to other people.
Mm-hmm.
I have been successful in partnering with Viewpoint Health on several
Okay.
cases, multiple cases, whereby which we're able to partner with them, get homeless people off of the street. And if that particular family or that particular individual stays in our program for over a year and they prove to be able to keep a job, then we're able to transfer the lease from the lease is in their name, but they're able to allow them to maintain the lease by themselves. And so I
Yeah.
will then issue a
Mm-hmm.
lease to those individuals, and we've been successful in several families being able to take them from that of being homeless to
Mm-hmm.
giving them a place to stay, and then them being able to maintain that place to stay, and then continue to retain the lease for themselves, thereby taking them off the street, transitioning them into traditional housing. And so, with that, along with the Hambrick Foundation, we have a foundation in the community
Okay.
that I
Mm.
started quite some years ago, and we target young people. We
Okay.
target young people because I sincerely believe that young people are the fabric of our community.
Mm-hmm.
And if we could really impress upon them at an early age,
Yeah.
then we will produce um, citizens in our community that
Mm-hmm.
understands the value of giving back, right? Citizens
Mm-hmm.
that produce productive citizens. And so I try to do my
Gotcha.
part in that. So one of the things that I want to do with my real estate, along with the Hamburg Foundation, was there is a need in our community through DFACS, the Department of Family and Children Services, of young
Mm-hmm.
people who are staying in hotels who are
Mm.
homeless.
Yeah.
They're staying in hotels because they can't be placed or there aren't any beds for them because all of our state systems they're to capacity. And so what I wanted to do was to be able to partner with the Department of Family and Children Services, and with one of the properties that I invested in was to be able to turn that into a home for children, and we were going to call it the
Mm-hmm.
Hambrick House of Hope, so that the things that I've been able to do, I could be able to give back to the community and teach other children. Now, I was going to specialize in young men,
Mm-hmm.
and I believe we want to have anywhere no more than 6 young men, two to a bedroom inside of a 3-bedroom house. And we did. We actually we approached the city, and
Mm-hmm.
before I even tried to get it passed, I spoke to city officials to see if it would be a good fit. I spoke to those city's officials, and they said that it would be a good fit. And so I
Right.
wouldn't have taken it further. And see, these are the things that people don't necessarily know. But the truth of the matter
Mm-hmm.
is, I set meetings with city officials to see if this is something that we could potentially have. And it passed on the county side, and they were hooray. This is
Mm-hmm.
something that we need to take
Yeah.
young people off the street.
Mm-hmm.
And the city officials were okay with it. But unfortunately, it was not able to pass the city
Wasn't it?
council.
I think it was the citizens more, wasn't it? That was opposed to it.
Yeah, well, I don't even know any of the citizens that were opposed to it. They were telling me that some citizens
Mm-hmm.
were opposed to it. I never met any of those citizens. We actually had an open house on the street, so that I stood up there for several hours so that the citizens could come and ask me questions, and no one
Mm-hmm.
showed up. But the city council did
See, that's the thing. They
unfortunately
get
deny
angry,
it.
but then they don't show up to voice their opinion.
Well, yeah, well, and I wanted to make sure I did
You
everything
know.
that I could to make myself available.
Mm-hmm.
But the city, now the city planning department, they they were for it. They said, hey,
Mm-hmm.
we recommend that the city council
Yeah.
do this. But unfortunately, the city council didn't. And honestly, I can sit here and say what I think, but I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. Obviously, I am a political candidate.
Right.
Obviously, there's relationships that's interwoven through the community. I think it would
Mm-hmm.
be reckless for me to suggest that it's because of. I know other people have said that, but I don't have any evidence about that, so I won't say it.
Right.
But for whatever
Right.
reason, it didn't pass. And I think, and I
Mm-hmm.
said this in a statement, we as a community, I believe that as we become more diverse, we
Mm-hmm.
have to evolve as a community. It doesn't necessarily mean
Yeah.
that we have to do it without citizen engagement. But if we're going
Mm-hmm.
to have honest conversations, we have to do that. And everything won't go my way. I understand that. Sometimes you
Right.
get denied. I understand that. But I just felt as if there were some things that were discussed without me, and there were some motivations that I
Right.
think does not represent the character and the nature of the community of Conyers
Right.
and Rockdale County, that we want to be able to
Mm-hmm.
replicate. And I'll
And
say
that's.
that.
I was just talking to the guy that's running for Congress for the 13th district here that we are now in, and
Yes.
wanting to start. Well, like the homeless or whoever is hungry, I want to start a food distribution somehow. If
That
that's
would be
what
awesome.
y'all do too, yeah. So
Yes.
if you ever
That would be
have
awesome.
any ideas for that, I like to help with that too. So I like to get involved with you as well.
Sure, man.
So
Sure. There's
yeah.
always help. There's always a need for additional people to help,
Hmm.
especially when it comes to community. I think that that's not a race. I think that's a responsibility and
No.
obligation that we have as a community to all partner
Hmm.
together to try to help as many people as we can.
And that's what the biggest thing here in this community. Still, I think, and I get it because I got harassed on the race saying that I'm white. I'm like, really? This is
Mm,
still going on? I'm like, and
I'm
this is
sorry to
from an
hear that.
elected official. This is from a state elected official here in Rockdale County. So, and
Wow.
he's doing to other people too. So we need to stop that and
Wow.
try to come together more. So,
Exactly.
but
Exactly.
somebody was asking about the hotels. Who are in the hotels with them? Like are they teenagers or how old are they that are
Yeah, well,
homeless?
the particular group that I was referring to would be teenagers, and that would be anywhere from 11, I believe, that was maybe 12 years old,
Wow.
up to the age of 18 when they become emancipated. Another reason why is a
Hmm.
lot of times, crime that takes place in our community is literally between
Hmm.
the ages of 15 and it's like 28. And so because
Really?
of that, yeah, I think, we can lock
Hmm.
people up all the time, and that's great because if you commit a crime, you need to go to jail, point blank, right? We lock you up.
Hmm.
But some of
Right.
these instances, if we can begin to impress upon and sow a seed upon several young people, then that seed will begin to grow. And you don't know, man, you can turn
Hmm.
around a whole community by just making an example
Yeah.
and working with several, young people. And so that was my
Mm-hmm.
purpose for being able to do that, and that's whether I'm sheriff or not.
Mm-hmm.
I had this plan before I even decided to run for sheriff. Me being sheriff had nothing to do with that. That's just my heart, CJ.
Mm-hmm.
Is to be able to
Right.
help young
Right.
people in the community be the best version of themselves that they
Mm-hmm.
possibly can.
So
And
when you
now,
go ahead,
go
sorry,
ahead. So I don't
you
know
can go
who
ahead.
stays in the room with them. I think they're just
Right.
supervised. So I think if there's like
Mm-hmm.
a block of rooms, from what I have been told, there is a person that comes around to check on them to make sure they're all in the room. And there may be one person maybe on the floor or something, but nevertheless, it's a hotel. Who wants to be
Right.
raised in a hotel, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, our
Yeah.
taxes pay for that because these hotels are charging exorbitant prices in order to be able to house,
And
children who are in the custody of the state, which ultimately ends up in our
okay,
taxes as well.
that's what I was going to ask. Who's paying for the? Is the state paying for the hotel for them to stay in? Is that how it
Oh
works?
yeah, of course, yeah.
Or is this county and city, or is it just the state that's paying?
I don't know if there's any type of supplement that the county or the city has to. I do not
Okay.
think so. I think that that's just
Okay.
a 100% state ran agency, and I think the
Mm-hmm.
funds that are given to run the organization or that particular division or department at the
Mm-hmm.
state is for operations, which includes obviously salary staffs. There are certain grants I'm pretty sure that the state get, from the federal government,
Mm-hmm.
but our taxes, for those of us that pay state taxes and things of
Right.
nature, of course, it goes to buffer that as well,
Mhm.
or
So
to
when you're a
support
sheriff,
that.
how would you address the problem of crime and the teenagers and all that? How would that work when you're sheriff? Or what would
Well,
you do to
I
solve that?
yeah, man. So there's several things. I know we talk about programs all the time, and I
Mm-hmm.
can program you out. I can program you, program for
All
this,
right.
program for that. But one of the things that I'm going to do is I'm going to create a division of community engagement, right? A division of community engagement. And before somebody says it's going to cost extra money, no. First of all, when we get the sheriff's office to full capacity, then two things are able to happen here. Number one, you give people a career path, right? You don't just have to
Mm-hmm.
work, because law enforcement has evolved over a period of time. And I think we all know that.
Okay.
It's not the same
Yeah.
policing that it was with my grandfather or grandmother, or my
Right.
mother or
And the
father.
old, like the old courthouse we had, or the old jail down there. I mean, we used that up till 1960, I think.
See?
So yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's changed a lot.
So it's changed a lot. So
Mm-hmm.
as policing has changed, I believe that our methods of policing have to change. So you're just gonna have a division for uniform
Mm-hmm.
patrol and investigations. I think a lot of people don't get inside of policing because of a lot
Mm-hmm.
of various reasons. But I think that number one, by us creating a division, once we are at full capacity, I'm not talking about spending any extra money. I'm talking about opening up other opportunities for deputies who's within the agency to use some of their psychology skills that they went to school for, to use some of the soft skills that we all get
Mm-hmm.
certified for, to be able to police a community in such a way to where it is relationally led. And so, to answer your question, when it comes to young
Mm-hmm.
people, I plan on having a community engagement division, whereby which there would be a segment of that division that specifically focus on connecting with the youth in our community. And in that particular cohort, that would be several different programs, right? Because every program is not for every young person. I can tell you about the Explorer
Mm-hmm.
program, which is, a program by which we
Right. Yeah.
allow
Yeah.
young people to come in and get law enforcement experience and, all type of
I wish I would have done
volunteerism and
that.
things
I
like
didn't
that.
even know about that in high school. I wish I would have done that. That'd
Yeah,
been cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
But every young person don't want to do that. Some people just want to have a
Mm-hmm.
relationship with law
Mm-hmm.
enforcement to be able to learn different things so they can decide what they want
Mm-hmm.
to do. So in building these
Right.
relationships, we don't just talk at young people, we talk with
Mm-hmm.
young people. And that's all young people want these days, is somebody to actually hear them. Some of them have,
Mm-hmm.
stories that are very impactful. Some of them are dealing with issues within their families, social economic issues that causes
Mm-hmm.
them to have emotional instability, which does lead to psychological issues or mental issues, if you will.
Yes,
And
that's the
so,
biggest.
what I believe is, with the sheriff's office, we can't solve all the problems, but when it comes to crime,
Mm-hmm.
building those relationships. And if we build those relationships, if there are things happening in our community like inner autos, people committing burglaries, gangs, what it affords us to do is to be able to be proactive, to put things in place to be able to
Mm-hmm.
fight those crimes, because we're connected with the young people community here in Rockdale County. So that's
Right.
ultimately a
And
part. So with that comes
mm-hmm.
gang and all those things.
Right. That's what I was just about to ask. I heard that there were some gangs in the county. How do you know how many or how they got formed? Was it? I think there's like two. I heard.
Yeah, so what I like to call those is subsets. That the gangs
Mm,
have a hierarchy. They have a familiar. They have a family system, and so I
mm,
don't know how many subsets, but we have seen evidence, and when we do have relationships with young people already right now, that
right.
already works with me and speaks with me in
Mm,
the high school because we're connected through
mm,
things that we do through the high school. And there are
okay.
gangs. We can identify some of the gang members. And so once again, you may not necessarily see them while you're checking out at Walmart on Dogwood Drive,
All right.
but when they leave Walmart on Dogwood Drive, it's where they're staying. Once again, they want family, and they're probably staying in one of the hotels. And so what we want to
Mm,
do is to be
mm,
able to get in and to be able to connect with them on a level that no one else has, and try to
mm,
see if we could intercede in some type of way to keep them from going down paths that they shouldn't be going down, and then hopefully turn them
mm,
for us, for community and
mm,
some and civility, so that we can cut down on
mm.
crime as much as possible, you know, for the crimes that's being committed between that particular age bracket.
Got you. So we got a question for the audience right here. It says, "We are in a shift in our country, and the needs are different. Please share about your leadership style and why it's one that will steer Rockdale in a positive direction."
A very good question. If you could leave that up so I can continue to read it. Thank you so
Yeah,
much,
yeah.
Mr. Delia, for asking that question. We are indeed in a shift in our country, and the needs are different. And because the needs are different, it takes a law enforcement agency, and it speaks about my leadership style. My leadership style is that of being inclusive. Inclusive meaning that I understand in order for us to have a community that we're going to be safe, we
Mm-hmm.
share in the responsibility. The sheriff is the chief law enforcement official in any county, by way of the Georgia Constitution, right? And so,
Mm-hmm.
although I would be the chief law enforcement officer, then it still doesn't suggest I'm the only person that's going to be responsible. From an
Right.
enforcement standpoint, of course, but from a nurturing
Mm-hmm.
standpoint, from a nurturing standpoint, I have to partner with parents. From an
Mm-hmm.
educational standpoint, I have to partner with the school system, right?
Mm-hmm.
From
Yeah.
a philanthropic standpoint, I have to partner with stakeholders in our community to be able to build organizations or nonprofits, 501c3. And so my leadership style, which is a very good question, is one of leadership to where I understand that I can't get it done by myself. And I said this
Mm-hmm.
in various forums that it takes listening, because when we
Mm-hmm.
listen as a leader, we get an idea of what the need is. When you go inside of a doctor's office, the first thing the doctor tells you is to tell him or her your symptoms. And when you can
Mm-hmm.
tell or describe him or her your symptoms, they have to listen. And when they listen
Yeah.
based on their experience and their professional background, they're able to diagnose, or their educational background, they're able to
Mm-hmm.
diagnose the fix, first of all, what the issue is, and then give you a fix for that issue. And so leading
Mm-hmm.
from a standpoint of listening enables me, number one, from the deputies to hear what they need to do their job better.
Yeah.
But secondly, from the people who I serve, which is the people in the community, it tells me what their needs are in their neighborhood watch groups, right? It tells me what their needs are
Mm-hmm.
in the school
Oh yeah.
system. It tells me what their needs are in the crime that's taking place, so that we could take the resources that they pay for, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
and they pay
Yeah.
me if I am, or they trust me to be able to delegate in such a way to serve them better. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's how we could steer Rockdale County in a positive direction through the leadership of just being inclusive more.
Uh, Before we go on, I want everybody to, if you're watching and if you're clicked on, can you share it? Because apparently they are having troubles clicking on the broadcast. So if you can share it too, Corey, on your page, and that way we can get more people in. I think there's
You want me to share
probably,
it on
but
my
I've
page?
been, please do, yeah,
Okay. Do you mind
and
if I get
because
my
I've
phone
been,
real quick so I can do that?
yeah, yeah,
Do you
you're
mind?
fine, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, no,
I
you're
don't want
fine.
nobody to say I'm
That's
rude
what I
because
was,
I'm on my phone.
no, 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 that's what I was doing earlier. I hope that, trying to get people to get on because they're texting me saying they can't, get the broadcast. So share it, and hopefully people can click on it and share it
All right. Let me
and
go
get
to your
on.
page right now and
I've
let me
been
share
on
this.
3 times today already, so it's probably like uh, we
They're
need to
probably
rest
trying to
here.
shut you out.
Right, right. Give us a
So
minute here, folks. And
I'm not
are
seeing it
you seeing it
live on
either?
your page No, I'm not seeing it.
That's weird. I saw it live on mine. Refresh the page and it should show up.
It's saying, CJ, we can't click on your podcast. Let me
Hmm.
see here.
There's 10 people in here right now, so we can go on and after the broadcast we can share it and it'll be recorded. So let's
Okay.
go on to the
Okay,
next.
cool.
Yeah, because there's still people coming. At the most we had 12, so there's still
Okay.
people clocking in. So hopefully they'll find a way to click in. But here's another question from the audience. How do you plan to handle the internal investigation of potential corruption inside the jail?
The once again, how do I plan on to handle internal investigations and potential corruption? Well, first of all, it's through what we call the Office of Professional Standards, which is where I, or traditionally internal affairs, reside.
Hmm.
And to be totally transparent with you, handle it based on the policies and procedures that we put in place, which is one of the things that we will have to do in order to become CALIA certified. And so,
Hmm.
with that, um, that means you simply follow your policies and procedures. And as you follow your policies and procedures, then the deputies who are in the agency, they would then feel as if they're going to be treated fairly. Does that make sense? And the reason why we're having
Hmm.
problems
Yeah.
with that is because a lot of people feel as if the things that's going on inside of the jail right now, it's just honestly, it isn't fair. Okay, it isn't
Hmm.
fair. And what do I mean by it isn't
Right.
fair? There are deputies right now, and I will be very honest with you, that they are
Mm-hmm.
afraid to speak up because they feel like they're going to be targeted for speaking up. They contact our campaign all the time, and I don't even say their names. I don't bring them up just for their protection, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And they feel like they're going to be
Interesting.
targeted if they say something. A lot of them feel as if we've heard this term nepotism going around. And nepotism, I want to say this: nepotism, just from an educational standpoint, nepotism is not necessarily your family members. That can be included, but
Mm-hmm.
nepotism is anything that occurs whereby the punitive responses or the discipline is
Mm-hmm.
biased in nature. Okay, any type of bias where there's this unfair
Right.
treatment. And so
Mm-hmm.
we have to get rid of nepotism, and we have to make
Mm-hmm.
sure by just leading, we have to make sure by examples, by the accountability that we engage our leaders in that. First of all of our commanders, leading with
Mm-hmm.
accountability that says that we're holding everyone to the same standard. And once we do that and we begin to shift that culture that is obviously there based upon who you know, who you're friends with, what your
Mm-hmm.
position is, or what position you're vying for, then we get rid of all of that. And then we can deal with the corruption, or we can deal with the investigations of deputies inside of the jail in a more efficient
Mm-hmm.
and unbiased manner, is what I would say.
Mm-hmm. And so, does the sheriff's office? I don't know about the internal of it really, but do they have a board or how do they operate like that? Like, do they have do they have a board? I guess like with the sheriff.
Like we said, board.
Yeah, like I guess if like the BOC, do they have a board like the BOC or
Oh, I get what you're
how do
saying.
they
Like you're
operate
trying to
inside?
say, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, well, no, the sheriff is an elected official, so he serves
Mm-hmm.
within and of himself. He's an
Uh-huh.
individual, or she, depending on where you are. But in our county, the sheriff,
Mm-hmm.
he doesn't have a board. He's entrusted to make decisions that's going to benefit the citizens of Rockdale County in terms of safety, security, housing of prisoners, and things of that nature. He's solely charged with
Mm-hmm.
that. And then
Mm-hmm.
the state gives him the opportunity to the authority to deputize individuals to carry out functions in his name or on his behalf. And so,
Mm-hmm.
um, being that I would be the sheriff, should the people of Rockdale County choose me, then whatever leadership style that I lead out in or that
Mm-hmm.
I position or we set up and we place in terms of culture is the same leadership that should permeate throughout rank and file or all ranks of the sheriff's office. Now, if you're asking about if there's some type of review board or some type of oversight committee,
Ethics
no.
board, yeah.
But
Or do you? I think one of the questions. Who will be your second in command? Is that like say president and vice
oh,
president? Is it like that?
yeah, yeah. So it would be the sheriff, and then you have what we call a chief deputy. And a chief deputy
Mhm.
traditionally is responsible for running the day-to-day operations of the agency. From the chief deputy, then the agencies, in terms of a organizational chart or a hierarchy organizationally, it then filters out to seven different departments. You have, you may want to go operations and then administration. And then from that, you
Mm-hmm.
have uniform patrol, which is the captain. Then you have CID, which is a captain. You have several different divisions. Then on the other side, you have jail operations, right? So you got to operate the
Mm-hmm.
jail. And so it filters down from there. But the second in command is formally and traditionally called the chief deputy.
We got a lot of questions coming in, so we're going to kind of go about one by one here. But this one just
Okay.
popped up, and she said, "I called 911 and it took 27 minutes. Is there a shortage of deputies?"
So there is a shortage of deputies.
Like we
You,
was
didn't-
talking about
you didn't
earlier.
put me
But
you didn't put me on your show to sit here and play games. So what
right,
we have found out is that deputies are being asked to work overtime. Not only that,
and it's a 12-hour
commanders
shift, right?
is already a 12-hour
So they
shift,
do it.
right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
However, they work the overtime out. I don't know. But deputies are telling us we're
Yeah.
being asked to work overtime. We're being asked to, and sometimes overtime is when you've already worked the allotted number of hours that you're slated for
Mm-hmm.
that particular week. It doesn't necessarily mean that you work 12 hours and then you continue to work. I mean, there should be a policy that they should have in place that says how many hours you can work. Because when fatigue begins to set in, then of course your mind ain't thinking right. Then that becomes a hazard. It becomes
Mm-hmm.
very hazardous for and a liability for the citizens of Rockdale
Mm-hmm.
County, the sheriff's office. But they're working more hours in a time period. And once you supersede a certain number of hours in that particular time period, then the citizens of Rockdale County has to then pay overtime.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the issue with this is once you begin to pay overtime, then now the idea is that, we don't necessarily have to impress upon the fact of going out to do effective recruiting so that now we're not double paying deputies, but we're using the extra money to fill the slots, of deputies that's not here to get to even
Mm-hmm.
increase the number of allotted deputies that the Board of Commissioner has allotted the sheriff's office for. But when you
Mm-hmm.
already, have monies sitting in this account because you allotted for this many deputies, but
Yeah.
you're not filling these positions, then now we're taking money from another pot to be able to pay overtime to these deputies. Then what's happening to this
Mm-hmm.
money that's being utilized for deputies that you're already allotted for positions that are not filled, right? And so, yes, there is a
Mm-hmm.
shortage of deputies. And if it's taking 27 minutes, and I don't
That's
know
what
the
she said.
intricacies of the particular call for service,
Mm-hmm.
but with my experience, I do know based upon the nature of the call, then the Emergency
That's what I heard. Yeah,
Operations
I heard that before
Center,
too.
they filter the call in terms of the importance or the emergency. Like, so they're in progress calls where there is literally, a threat to life or to property and it's in progress, then those calls get pushed to the top of the list because those calls, take more of a
Mm-hmm.
precedent over other calls. So I don't know the type
Right.
of call, but I will say in a county like Rockdale County, if the
Mm-hmm.
shift is full, then half an hour
Right.
for a deputy to show up
That's
is excessive.
uncalled for. And then, yeah, I live in the city, but I see more of the city cops. But I rarely see sheriffs off when I go down south for work. I don't, I don't see a lot of sheriffs down there. And one of the questions is about the south side. How would you make citizens feel safe when the South Rockdale never sees sheriff's presence? Is the sheriff's department? Well, that's what. Yeah, just answer is the sheriff's department short, and it is. So, how would you?
Um,
Is there a
so
breakdown of south side and the north side, or how is that?
Yeah, well, currently, unless they've changed it, currently, the sheriff's office in terms of patrol is broken up into zones, right?
Mhm.
In other words, when a deputy comes in and they go to what we call shift call or shift briefing, they they're they are being passed off. They're given a zone assignment. Okay, it's like your assignment. You're going
I
to
did it
work
right
this
along with
area of the
the
county.
city, so yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you're going to work this particular
So
area,
they did the same
and you
zone,
work
yeah.
right, and you work that area.
Hmm.
Unless the shift supervisor then will rotate you, but that's your assigned area to patrol. And
Hmm.
typically, if it's 8 zones,
Hmm.
you want 8 deputies at least, and then you want
Right.
the shift supervisor and the lieutenant, so you have overlapping people. But if,
Hmm.
as we've been told, for a county our size, that means if at one night there's four, and we were told that there, because of the shortage one night, the county is being patrolled by 4 deputies.
Wow.
Now, if that's, yeah, wow,
Yeah.
that's appropriate.
Now, if that
So
the
now,
shortage,
if
would
four,
they? Can I ask a question right quick? If
yeah,
can the city and the county work together on the night shift, or because we only got one city and they're pretty staffed, I think.
right. So let me finish that first question. So if you got 4 deputies and you
Yes,
have eight
sir.
zones, then of course that doubles the coverage just by math. Four
Mm-hmm.
times two is 8. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
So that will increase your response times.
Time cost.
Now, as it relates to the south side of the county and the north side of the county, just by mere topography, and the geographical aspect of this, then there's a south
Mm-hmm.
side and a north side. But the south side may consist of several zones. The north side may consist of several zones. And then, of course,
Mm-hmm.
the central aspects of our county may consist of several zones, which does encompass, then the west side and the east side of the county, it does encompass those particular zones. One of the things that we can do to combat that is, number one, first of all, get fully staffed,
Mm-hmm.
right? Number two,
Yep.
start programming where we could have additional coverage for deputies in terms of some of these specialized units that we have, given an
Mm-hmm.
incentive to cut down on crime so that they can be able to overlap the existing deputy that's in that particular zone. Once again, creating more opportunity, just being
Mm-hmm.
creative and opening up our minds to be able to do the things that the citizens are already paying for. That's number two. Number three, you talked about the city of Conyers being
Mm-hmm.
able to assist. Well, the city of Conyers, they patrol the city limits. So where the
Right.
sheriff has jurisdiction because the city is in a county, the county is not in a
Right.
city simply because the county is bigger than the city. So every county, like
Right.
DeKalb County, you have cities in DeKalb County: Sandy Springs,
Mm-hmm.
Brookhaven, Chamblee. The list goes on. Lithonia, Stonecrest. So
Mm-hmm.
counties have cities, right? Like Clayton
Yep.
County. Clayton County has Lovejoy, Hampton. It has Forest Park, Morrow. So counties have cities. We only, as you are correct, we only have one
Mm-hmm.
city. So whereas the county has
Mm-hmm.
jurisdiction to enforce law within the city limits, the city does not have jurisdiction to enforce laws within the outer parameters of the county. So we could help the city out with their calls for service, but it would be
Mm-hmm.
unlawful for the city to come out to the county unless there is an emergency,
Mm-hmm.
the sheriff's office requests help from the city. Then, of course, in the aftermath, they deal with those legalities, the sheriff and the police chief, and they deal with those things because
Mm-hmm.
we're all state certified, mandated law enforcement officers. And I want to say to everybody, I
Right.
am a state mandated, certified law enforcement officer that has
Okay.
arrest powers, that works for a police department still, not Conyers anymore, but I'm still a police
Mm.
officer.
Gotcha. Got a question here. What's the number of crime-related issues that need to be an immediate plan of action from the next year?
I would say it's always property crime, thefts.
Hmm.
I will say that the numbers that were purported by the current administration is not consistent to the number of murders that has actually happened in our county. I will say that the numbers
Hmm.
that they're purporting, compared to the numbers, that we're getting from federal agencies, they don't match up. So we want to make sure that we are transparent in the numbers that we're giving the citizens, so that they're not,
Mm-hmm.
manipulated and lied to. But I would say it's always your property crimes that you're going to be dealing with. And that is like your
Mm-hmm.
burglaries, your entered autos, things of that particular nature. And I think it was Carolyn that asked that question. I think the only way that you can really combat that is if you get out, you educate people about, the criminal element, the things that they look for, rating themselves as it relates to alarm systems, as it relates to camera systems and things of that nature,
Mm-hmm.
so that we can catch them. The more we catch, the more others fear to come to our county and to commit these same heinous acts.
Right. And that's what when I first moved here, I heard what City of Conyers was real strict, and now they're kind of lax, I guess. But that's what I heard, that don't go to Conyers, don't mess with them, and we need to get back to that with Rockdale.
Yeah, yeah. I actually saw that on a movie. I think it was Tyler Perry's movie, one of his movies, where they
Oh
talked
yeah,
about it
yeah,
actually.
yeah,
Yeah, you saw that. Like,
yeah,
that's something
yeah,
that you
yeah,
don't that,
yeah.
that you don't want to do. Yeah, and I think it's
Right.
good to have a reputation of having a community that, in my opinion, a community that the sheriff's office, that their reputation goes before them, that says you just
Mm-hmm.
cannot do crime in Rockdale County, because once again, the
Right.
sheriff's office is working with the district attorney and working with the judges to make sure that those crimes that are serious in nature, that they receive serious stiff
Mm-hmm.
penalties, and those crimes where
Right.
there might not necessarily be as serious, we still work with them to say we still are a community and we still want to be able to work with you. But what we don't want you to do is committing crime in our community. And if you do,
Right.
then you're going to be sorry. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, Derek asks, what's your plan to modernize the department?
One of the plans that we have is, as we continue to evolve, and we spoke about this earlier in our interview, is being able to take the sheriff's office into the 21st century of policing. We
Mm-hmm.
are evolving consistently, and if we don't evolve with culture, then we're going to be left behind, right? And so I
Mm-hmm.
believe going to and researching, empowering, and resourcing our deputies with the latest technologies as it relates to fighting crime, apps or applications that we can use, training,
Mm-hmm.
robust training on the tools that's out there from a national standard standpoint of, what are the national standards now in policing. And that's one of the things that we can do by, once again, becoming CALIA certified, is we can begin to
Mm-hmm.
understand, what does it mean for us to, be a performing law enforcement agency. And when I say performing, we are hitting the notches in every single area as it relates to the standards of modernized policing. You cannot manage what you're not willing to measure. And right now, we're not
Mm-hmm.
measuring anything at our sheriff's office. And, a lot of
Oh,
people, not to take this thing personal, but a lot of people, man, why are you running? And, we knew the current guy and da 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 da. And that's wonderful. But I don't want you to vote for
mm-hmm.
me because you know me. I want you to vote for me
Right.
because I have a plan to take our sheriff's office further from where we are. I'm not saying that where we've been
Mm-hmm.
is, as bad. I'm just saying we have an opportunity as a community to take it further. And we need a
Right.
leader that is willing to actually do that, not to settle for what, for instance, one of the things that came up during the campaign is a check that I, obtained possession of, and the check was handwritten. People of Rockdale County, we should not be handwriting checks for a department that now is budgeted previously 29 million, but now 34 some odd
Mm-hmm.
million. 34
Wow.
million dollars. No one should be able to take out a check and write it. No,
Mm-hmm.
there should be systems in place. Whereas if a
Yeah.
check is printed, someone logged on, we know who logged on, we know who printed it, right? And just anybody can't
Mm-hmm.
sign it. It came back, well, the check didn't bounce, but the person who signed the check should have signed the check. Well, that's still a problem.
Hmm.
And because in my administration, if you don't have the authority to sign a check, you won't be signing a check. Why? Because this
Right.
is your money, CJ. This is my money. And
Mm-hmm.
so people shouldn't have
Right.
the access, if you will, to go in and just rip out a check like my grandmother had, or and just
Mhm.
write a check
Yeah.
and submit it.
Right.
No. So when I say modernize, modernization also comes with accountability, right?
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
now with systems and technology, we can record there is a record for every
Mhm.
check written. And there is a
Yeah.
policy for who can sign the check. And systems are talking to each other within the agency. So we do not do anything that the head doesn't know about, because ultimately it is the head or the leader that's going to be held responsible. So even if the check didn't
Right.
bounce, the check was returned. Even if we go with the excuse of, well,
Mhm.
because that person shouldn't have signed the check. Well, why did they have access to the
Mhm.
check in the first place? That's the
Right.
question. And if they are a leader who has access to the
Mhm.
check, then what's your system for redundancy, right? Or replaceability.
Mhm.
So if the correct person isn't there
Mhm.
to sign the check because they're on vacation or whatever, right? Operations, Rockdale County don't shut down just because somebody's on vacation. We still have services
Mhm.
and things that we need, right? So what is the
Mhm.
replaceability factor? What is the redundancy factor? How do we move? What are our internal controls so that we could efficiently manage right now a $34 million department that we're dumping money into? We just can do better. So with technology, we
Right.
with training, right, and with resourcing
Mhm.
our deputies and our civilian personnel with the latest of technology through conferences and understanding
Mhm.
training, so that we can be better equipped to fight the criminal element. That's how we could take the city, Rockdale County, or the county of Rockdale, and modernize the current agency.
I got a big question right here, right quick. But before we go into that, what is the number one issue when you get into office that you implement, like when you get in office?
The number one issue is morale within the agency, right? So before we can go
Okay.
out there and we can patrol the streets, we have to make sure that we stabilize the agency. Right now, I think it's fair to say that we have a very well. I don't know about the department. I know about the deputies that reach out to our campaign, and once
Mhm.
again, they have to, they literally have to make fake email addresses just to, you know, they're creating pseudonyms
Content.
just to
Yeah.
camouflage their name
Wow.
so that we don't know who's reporting what. Not that we would ever say
Hmm.
anyone's name anyway, but they're saying things that we know to be true because we're fact checking. These are deputies. So what am I saying? Right now, the culture
Hmm.
inside of the sheriff's office is toxic. And even when the current administration talks about, well,
Hmm.
the deputies are happy, it's not true. Some deputies are happy, depending on who you
Hmm.
pledge loyalty to,
Right.
right? So I don't doubt that there's some
Mhm.
deputies no, some deputies are happy, right? And you will find that
Yeah.
some of the same deputies are showing up to these events because either they're
Hmm.
working for executive protection, which I don't know why. Anyway, I don't know why there's a need for executive protection. But
Right.
yeah, I don't know why there's a need for that. But um,
Right.
they're working, right? So they're
Mhm.
being made to be there, or they're on the campaign team, or they are closely in favor with somebody who's in executive leadership. So for the major or the general population as it relates to deputies, a lot of them aren't happy. And so one of the
Hmm.
things that I would first have to deal with at the agency is unifying the agency. Okay.
Huh.
I do not condone, nor do I patronize foolishness. And I
Yeah.
believe that if we're all on the same team, then we have to have those necessary conversations to pull everybody in. People are not perfect. People are not
Hmm.
perfect.
Yeah.
I think with with the um, recent information and literature that's been distributed about me, people know that people are
Hmm.
not perfect, right?
Yeah.
So we're not talking about being perfect. We're talking about
Mhm.
acknowledging that everything hadn't been right with certain individuals that may be in leadership right now, but that's okay.
Mhm.
Let's
Yeah.
triage it. Let's talk about it. Let's have honest
Mhm.
conversations, right? And it starts with the mentality of the leader, the person
Mhm.
who you elect, right? Once
Yeah.
again, you cannot manage what you're not willing to measure. And so
Mhm.
through a culture shift in the mentalities of those individuals who I will put in leadership, which will be people who I will personally vet for the ones that do not have to necessarily take an assessment and be promoted. The ones that can be appointed will be people of character, people who understand the new vision, people who understand that a environment can become toxic if you do not take responsibility and authority as a leader and be able to set the tone for that environment, to lead in fairness, right? And to hold standards for everyone across the board. And so once we do that, we begin to fix the culture in the sheriff's office, and we are allowed then at that particular point to take it from that of low morale to high morale. So we're now they're talking about it in Metro Atlanta, and now because it is a place to work that is peaceful, where everybody's not trying to come after you, where everybody's not trying to put an IA investigation on you, where people are not looking to set you up because of who you know or who you haven't pledged your loyalty to. You know, these are things that is inappropriate and illegal, by the way, right? This is a professional agency. And up until I ran for sheriff, I know some things are being aired out. And guess what, Rockdale County? I'm sorry. I'm sorry that they're being aired out. And why some people, you know, want to take it as a negative thing, I take it as a positive thing because we do not know where to apply the antiseptic if we don't know where the bleed is. So because now we know where the bleed is, then we can begin to triage it and we can begin to fix it. So my first thing is unifying the agency from within, getting us all on the same page so that we can go out and fight crime as a unit, not with as a unit, all right? As a unit where we are charged with the responsibility from a unified approach, not from an approach where it has been birthed out of division. And right now, there's division within our local sheriff's office. There is.
Wow. There was another question I was going to go for, but let me go to this one first about the school systems. What about crimes in the schools that are accurate? We requested that the report and was told it would cost, I think, over $600 to open records requests.
All right. So when we start talking about the school system, obviously the sheriff's office and the city of Conyers Police Department, they have what we call SROs, that's student resource officers. They're typically at the middle school and high school levels. You may find that a particular SRO who services a particular high school and or middle school, if there is an elementary school in proximity, he or she may go over and handle situations of that particular elementary school. But the school system has a security division, and in that security division, they, you know, all type of crimes that take place in the school, I'm pretty sure they have record. But in terms of crimes or that, you know, that are taking place whereby which they're reported to the sheriff's office, you know, that is something that, you know, I do not have all the information as relates to what happens in the school. That's another thing too. Being able to say, I don't know. If you don't know, you don't know. I'm not going to sit here and try to make up stuff to you guys. But I will tell you this. In order to be able to get that information, I don't know if you got the crime. You know, open records is kind of funny these days because we're in political season. And when we're in a political season, then people are given instructions, unfortunately.
They don't want to give out the information.
To give out certain information or to overcharge because it's illegal to charge. It's legal to charge. You know, you got to check the code section for the state of Georgia under the Open Records Act. The time that it takes for a person to gather all your records, you can actually charge. And then if you are asking for those records to be produced on paper, then obviously they can charge you per page just being printed. However, how the $600 charge was actually broken down, I do not know. That seems to be a bit excessive, but I don't know the actual nature of the request, so I can't say that. But if the sheriff's office is charging you $600, then you may want to go to the Rockdale County Public Schools to see what records, because I'm pretty sure that every single thing that's happened in the Rockdale County School district or Rockdale County Public School System, if the sheriff's office has an incident report, I'm pretty sure that Rockdale County Schools also have an incident report. And I would ask them for those reports. And if there is a major cost difference, then you know there's a problem.
Right. one question before we go to this, and it's been an hour, so after this one, this will probably be the last one if anybody else has
Okay. Okay.
a question. But would you get? Do we need an ethics board in the sheriff's office to be held accountable for the sheriff? Or what do you think?
Can you? Okay. So do we need an ethics board? So because
Mm-hmm.
of the culture, I believe I answered this question on one of my other forums. Go back and watch. If you go to our Facebook page,
Okay.
Friends of Cory Hambrick, and you look at some of the forums that we've
Mm-hmm.
had, this is all
Mm-hmm.
great dialogue, by the way. CJ, thank you for having me on
Mm-hmm.
tonight.
Yes. Yeah. I
Um,
love talking about this.
yes, sir. Um, when we begin to talk about ethics, right? If
Mm-hmm.
you have to have an oversight committee to make sure that an agency that lock people up and put people in jail themselves are being ethical, then we got a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Off rip. You elect the sheriff because number one, he or she is ethical.
Mm-hmm.
He or she is morally sound. That's not to say that they're perfect. And I want us to really
Right.
hear this. But the agency in itself is ran in such a way by where what I never want to do is have expectation for people that don't have capacity to fulfill myself, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So while we
Yeah.
do make mistakes and while people, aren't perfect, it's very important that we don't present ourselves as such. And so with that, I think it becomes very dangerous if there's an oversight committee
Mm-hmm.
for
Okay.
a law enforcement agency. However, I do believe that there should be a system or a
Mm-hmm.
committee by which
Okay.
they are able to come in, examine things that have happened, and then give their assessment to the sheriff so that the sheriff is hearing not just views from inside in terms of the operations
Mm-hmm.
of the agency, but also objective views from the people outside. See,
Mm-hmm.
it's only when you have both sides of the story, I believe, the good and the bad. I'm sorry, everybody's not going to give you a
Yeah.
cookie cutter answer. Everybody's not going to
Mm-hmm.
say yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. Right? You need. My
Right.
mother taught me the good, the bad, and the ugly to be able to make the right decision. And so, while I do not
Mm-hmm.
believe necessarily in an oversight committee,
Uh-oh. We are losing him. Let's give it a second here. Maybe he'll come back. 1 second. Let's see if he'll pop back on. Maybe I need to remove him and let him come back in. Let's remove him right quick. Let's see if he's logging back on. Sorry for the delay, folks. Technical difficulties. All right, let's see if he logs back on. Give me 1 second. Again, I want to thank everybody for all the support I've been getting. And all right, let's play a video right quick. Stay with me, folks, because this is good information that we need to know. So I'll be right back. All right, we're back on. Hey, how you doing? Can you hear me?
my computer actually lost power.
Well,
Okay.
We can't hear you. Can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
Mm-mm.
Can you hear me now? No?
Barely. Let me.
Testing one, two. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Let me see here.
Just a little bit. Yep.
Is that better?
Go ahead and talk and finish.
Okay. So what I
You
was
can
saying
finish your
was, because
statement that you was on.
I was going to finish my statement. So essentially, what I was saying is, I do believe that we should invite the community in to be able to hear and to see some of the disciplinary actions, some of the issues that we've had with deputies. I do think that we should have our doors open. But currently, right now, the sheriff,
Hmm.
the only person, ultimately, other than answering to the people themselves, the only person that has authority over the sheriff is the governor, and the only person I believe that can take a warrant on the sheriff is the coroner. So,
Okay.
that's the only oversight that we have. But why I don't believe we should have an oversight committee for the sheriff's office, because sometimes when you talk about law enforcement, you never know who's on that oversight committee, and you never know if there's some type of gain that they can get because we've arrested their brother, their sister, and we don't want to subject our
Yeah.
deputies to that. We want them to be able to know that whatever discipline is going to be given is going to be given simply because of the culture and the ethics of our command staff and of our leader. However, I do believe in inviting in a committee of individuals in our community to be able to see all of our stats, all of our reports, and have a roundtable with the sheriff to discuss some of the issues that we're having, from a from
Gotcha.
a from a perspective of transparency.
Uh, Go ahead and you can give your closing statement for me because we got Larry's show coming on at 8. It's been a long day for me and our viewers, so go ahead and give your closing statement, and I appreciate you coming on.
Well, first of all, I want to thank the citizens of Rockdale County for all of the pleasant experiences and all of the not so pleasant experiences that we've had during this campaign election or this campaign season and during this election. I want to encourage everybody to get out and vote. Right now, voting is taking place uh, between May or April the 29th through May 17th for early voting. And then, of course, on May the 21st, election day. I want to be your sheriff because first of all, I want to give you an option. I want to give you an option. We do understand that the current administration has been in place for now going on, 13 years or 3 terms and counting. And the only reason why we want to run for sheriff is to be able to give you options. And it's okay, Rockdale County, for you to have an option. And it's not bad for you to have an option. And it's not bad for a person who lives in your community, such as myself, a person who is given to your community, such as myself, a person who participates in your community, such as myself, and a person that knows people in your community, such as myself, a person that has children that's been raised in your community, such as myself. It's okay for such a person to want to be able to offer themselves up for examination, to be able to lead. That's as a society, that's how we grow. You know, people come in, it's an open seat and it's a public seat. And we're able to see, just because you have it now doesn't mean you're going to have it forever. And so our vision, as we stated, is safety, leadership, and community. And I believe whereby there is a safe neighborhood or a safe society by which leadership is transparent and approaches it from a perspective of servitude, then the community benefits. I want to serve you at a higher level because I believe in our community. I don't want the sheriff's position just to say I'm wearing these stars on my shoulder, or I have arrest powers, or
Hmm.
there's resentment, and just to go throughout the county like a militant individual um, would and turn our county into something that is not. I believe in community, and I believe that we are ripe as a community
Right.
to be to examine different methods of policing to be able to fight crime, to include that in which we're already doing. And so,
Mm.
my name is Cory Hambrick. Our website is Hambrick, the number four, rockdale.com. And you can find us online. Our Facebook page is Friends of Cory Hambrick. And I'm excited. For those of you guys who've been praying for me, thank you. For those of you all that have been supporting me, thank you. Know that we're not discouraged. Know that we continue to fight. I know that I'm running up against a system. I know that there are relationships with people, but I'm okay. And I believe, because I'm a faith man, that God will not put more on me than I can bear. And I believe that in this season, I have been ordained and been chosen to be able to carry this weight. It's heavy, but with
Mm-hmm.
your prayers and with your support, I know that we all can make it across the finish line. Will you vote for me by May the
Mm-hmm.
21st? If you would, you will give me the opportunity to lead our Rockdale County Sheriff's Office in a place that it's never been before. Thank you so much, CJ. I really appreciate
Yeah.
all of your viewers who are online, and I also appreciate you for giving me the opportunity to
Yes.
come on your show to speak about the vision that
Mm-hmm.
I have.
And I would like to, without the political part, I like to continue the conversation we was having about the youth and the homelessness because that's one of my biggest things too. And that's the reason of this platform. I'm letting it use for the community, get information out because there ain't no shows like that here in Rockdale. We need something like that.
You're doing a good job, man. Thank you so much. If I can be of
Yeah.
assistance in any type of way, then let me know. Hey, once this is over, we can be it'll populate and we can share it on our Facebook page. Correct?
Yes. Yeah. That'd be great.
Sounds
Yeah.
good.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. You have a nice night. All right.
All right, same to you. Bye, guys.